session, we in our for those who are here or have seen the video, we talked about harnessing your power through words. And in that session, we spoke mostly about the power of words themselves, right, spoken or written. And today we are going to talk about talk about the power of delivery, right, of spoken words. In other words, art of speaking and the presence. And between written and spoken, I would say spoken is even more powerful since it has what I call a higher bandwidth channel, because you have access to both the ears and sometimes eyes, like in this session, of the audience. So you have the ability to use non-verbal tools like body language and your volume and your tone, which you don't have access to in written word. So spoken word becomes even more powerful, actually. And last session we talked a lot about why, right? What is your intention behind writing or speaking? What is the content and how to actually choose the words? And we also talked about how to cater to the perception of the audience. So today we're going to focus on the how, right? How to speak and present ourselves. And the truth is, you want it or not, when you speak, you have an impact on the listener. The question is, what kind of impact do you want to have, right? You want to leave them bored, frustrated, angry, confused, or do you want to leave them inspired, educated, excited, convinced, right? So you want it or not, you have the power to do both, right? The question is, what would you rather use your power for? And there is also the where, right? When we speak, we could be in different settings, right? So you're speaking to someone one-on-one, you're speaking in a group or in an office meeting. Sometimes maybe you're speaking to a large audience, like a keynote. Also, speaking could be live, where you actually can hear and see audience, or offline, like video, YouTube videos or television. So you can't hear the reactions of audience. And for some of those, your strategies may differ. But I will try to generalize as much as possible. So what I'm going to speak should apply no matter where the setting is. So it doesn't matter if you're preparing for an interview, you're having a hard one-on-one conversation, you're running an important meeting, or you're giving a talk to a large audience, all of what we'll discuss will be relevant. So before we start on how, I want to really reiterate why. We talked about it last time, but it's worth talking about it again. Being very aware of your intentions or of goal of why you are speaking. There are two ways to set intentions and look at it from two different points of view, right? One is from your point of view, and one is from audience's point of view. So from your point of view, you can write it down like, I am speaking to inform, to educate, to convince, to entertain, to present ideas, to brainstorm solutions, right? What is your intention of speaking? I am speaking to inform, educate, entertain, on and on, right? Whatever it is your intention from your point of view. From audience's point of view, you can write down, after my talk, I want my audience to know and remember whatever, right? To believe whatever you want them to believe in, to feel whatever you want to leave your audience feeling, or to do, like if there's a call to action, right? So example could be, I want my audience to know and remember. Imagine you're in HR. So, I want them to know and remember the new policies we are rolling out in the company. Or I want them to know my brand name because, that's what you're trying to build. Or in a personal case, I want my friend to remember that I want a pink dress for my birthday, right? So whatever it is that you're trying to want the audience to remember after your talk. I want them to believe that our company has a great mission. Or I want them to believe that I care for them and that they can speak to me openly. Or I want them to believe that this is a game-changing idea. I want them to feel inspired about maybe a new initiative. I want them to feel scared because if they don't wear a mask, they're going to fall sick. I want them to feel excited about this new change, right, coming up. Or I just want them to feel happy and joyful. I want them to donate money to my cause. I want them to work harder for next 2 months because of a deadline. I want them to go and sign up for this new initiative. right? What is it that after your talk you want your audience to do? That is your intention, and you need to be very clear about it. And it's not mutually exclusive. You can have multiple of these, right? You may intend to both inform them and then also need them to take an action. Or you may intend to present an idea and brainstorm solutions at the same time, right? Your intention will allow you to choose how to engage your audience. And also pay attention to the relevance and emotionality of your message, right? So if you need them to feel something, you will have to deploy different strategies, such that that it's different than if you just want to inform them, for example. Basically, how emotionally you need them engaged will determine how you craft your message. Also, how much is your message about you versus about them, right? For example, if you are going in front of a large audience and talking about your life story, it's mostly about you, nothing about them, right? But if you, let's say, are talking to them about COVID virus and how it works and how they can prevent, it is relevant and important to them. So emotionality and relevance matters from an audience point of view. And so you need to also keep that in mind as you're crafting your message and talk. So hopefully, with all of these examples, I've convinced you on the importance of the why, right? The intentions of speaking. So regardless of, what your intention was, and what you want your audience to feel or do after your talk, during your talk, you want your audience to be attentive, right? Not falling asleep and dozing off or bored, and you want them engaged. So attentive and engaged audience is what you want during your talk. And after your talk, obviously, you want them leaving inspired and, call to action, whatever it is that you need. So let's get into how, right? How to speak and present for engagement. So there are 3 things I will cover on the topic of how. 1 is what I call principles of engagement. 2, what I call tools of engagement. And 3, tools of self-management, right? So principles of engagement, tools of engagement, and tools of self-management. So what are the principles of engagement of audience? Number 1, and this is like if you leave with nothing else, just leave with this one thing. Don't make your audience work hard, right? Don't make them work hard. What I mean by this is, as a speaker, it is your responsibility to optimize to be understood, not to speak, right? So I'm not optimizing to make sure I say everything I want to say to you. I'm optimizing to say what I think needs to be said so you can understand me, right? So I'm speaking to optimizing for understanding. And it does not matter what you want to say. You have to say it in a way that can be understood, right? So if you're speaking to children versus adults, if you're speaking to people who are native English speakers versus non-native English speakers, right? You have to craft it for your audience's understanding. If the listener, and why does this matter, is because if the listener can't understand you, they're bound to feel annoyed, right? Or stupid. And either way, if they feel annoyed or stupid, they're not going to like you. Right? So very simply, if you want to be liked, which is a very important thing as a speaker, to engage the audience, you have to optimize for audience's understanding, right? Don't make them work hard. Simple things like structure, how you speak, right? Don't blabber. Speak in a coherent fashion. So there has to be an arc of what you're speaking. Don't have too many tangents in your conversation, right? The more harder you make the listener work hard, the more energy it takes away from your core message, right? So example, I'm sure you guys have been on meetings, where somebody's speaking and something in the background, they present a visual, okay? But they're speaking something and you're constantly looking in the doc, like, what are they talking about, right? So you're wasting your energy trying to connect their audio with their video. And that's, again, you're making the audience work hard. So number 1, and the only thing if you want to take away from today, is don't make them work hard, right? Optimize for understanding of your audience. Number 2 of principle of engagement is develop a trust and relationship with your audience, right? And the fastest way, there are a couple of ways to do this. I'll give you some examples. One is vulnerability, right? The fastest way to connect with the hearts of an audience is to tap into vulnerability and shared struggles. Example is, you see a mom whose son died of cancer, and she's speaking to other parents whose children might have cancer. It instantly connects them. Like our struggles connect us the fastest, right? Faster than our victories, actually. Imagine you're an entrepreneur struggling to raise funds and you're speaking to an audience who are entrepreneurs. They will empathize with you on that struggle, right? You are a woman who has faced discrimination and you speak to other women of color, let's say, they will connect with you on that struggle, right? So our struggle connects us the fastest. So use that to connect and build a relationship with the audience. If you don't have a vulnerability, you can still go on commonalities, right? Country, race, gender, socioeconomic status, education, maybe your favorite sports team, maybe your favorite music band, whatever it is. Based on the context of what you're speaking, find the common grounds, because you want the audience to feel like you and audience are in the same camp, like you are part of the same tribe. And that is how, we can build relationship with the audience. And for some reason, you're not able to do any of that, then you want to establish authority over the subject so the audience can trust you, right? So you can explicitly call it out, right? Like you've done X amount of years of research on this topic, or you're the CEO of some company, maybe you are a winning athlete, maybe you've lost 40 pounds in 2 months, and now you can tell audience how to lose 40 pounds in 2 months. Whatever it is that makes them trust you and your message, because you are an authoritative person to speak about the subject. So that's the second rule of engagement, right? Building relationship and trust with your audience. And the third one is invoking curiosity. So the best way to think about curiosity is, if you think of your message as a fish, okay? Your message is a fish. Curiosity is like a hook, coming out of the audience. If you don't have that hook, your message is not going to stick. So you have to get audience curious. And there are like classic, ways of getting audience curious. You've probably seen people do this all the time. Stories, right? We love stories. So let's say I start telling you about, once upon a time, there was a king. Are you curious what's next, right? It's the story. So we build stories, and that gets people curious. Sometimes it's rhetorical questions, right? Raise your hands if you have gone and spoken in front of a public or audience, one or more than one, right? You engage your audience with a question. Could be rhetorical, doesn't matter. Humor, classic, right? You humor them and they get a little excited. Sometimes it's like a shocking statistic, right? 90% of speakers who speak in front of an audience suck. It's not a true statistics. I'm just saying it as an example of a shocking statistic to get you curious about, okay, what can I do to not suck, right? So these are ways to invoke curiosity. Again, curiosity is like a hook. And if your message is a fish, it will get stuck. So you have to invoke curiosity of your audience for your messages to get stuck in their brain. The next principle of engagement is evoking emotions. When we get emotional, we remember things vividly. This is basically how our brain is wired, right? You will probably remember your most happy or sad memories versus a normal run-of-the-mill day, right? Why? Because in those happy and sad memories, heightened emotions were evoked. So if you can evoke emotion in your audience, doesn't matter pleasant or unpleasant, right? You can make them angry or sad or happy and excited. If you can evoke emotion, they will remember your message. So example is, I used to raise funds for a nonprofit. And, I could go on and on about statistics of how effective the nonprofit is and like the child mortality rate and lack of education rate. Nobody will remember facts. But I show them a picture of a hungry child, right? It evokes an emotion, which is sadness. Then I show them that their $10 made that child get education, and now the child has a good, happy living. That's it. That was needed for them to remember my brand, my nonprofit, and evoke that emotion. And then I can have in reference, right? All the statistics that they need to go home and take to back my story. But emotions and evocation of emotions will land your message faster and get them to remember you. The next one is provoke stakes, right? If you can tell them upfront why they should listen to you, what are the stakes, that then they will be engaged. Simple example, if you're announcing a bingo number or a lottery, right, and your audience has the ticket, they're paying all the attention to every damn number coming out of your mouth. Why? Because their lottery is at stake. So similarly, if you can tell them, hey, they have to be listening to you because you can tell them how to lose weight, how to get more money, or if they don't listen to you, they will lose out on an opportunity. What are the stakes for them to pay attention to you? So if you can provoke stakes, if there are any actually, then provoke them. So then they will pay attention. And the last one is be courteous, right? Respect your audience, their time, their energy, and always thank them, right? So that's just like a very basic stuff. So these are principles of engagement, right? Don't make them work hard. Establish trust in a relationship. Invoke curiosity. Evoke emotion. Provoke stakes. And be courteous. So those are principles. What are the tools of engagement? So non-verbal communication represents two-third communication. Only 1/3 of the communication, which is 33%, is what you actually say, the words. 66% is not your words. So think about it, right? Just an eye contact or a smile, right? These are how we communicate to babies or animals. They don't speak English, right? So words don't matter. But all of our communication is non-verbal. So similarly, when you are talking even to an audience who can speak your language, right? Words, they can understand your words. Non-verbal communication still represents the large majority of how they will interpret your message. And non-verbal cues help because they can repeat what you're saying. They can sometimes complement what you're saying. They can accent your message, right? So it matters. And what are the non-verbal tools, right? One, voice, simple. And the problem with all of these non-verbal tools is that we have a default that doesn't work. And we have to explicitly design for us to do what is needed for this audience to listen to us. For voice, for example, what is our default volume? Low. But when you are speaking, you have to project your voice. Imagine if I just said something and you can barely listen to me and I'm just too low. How excited does it feel? Right? If I don't project my voice, you can't listen to me. I'm going to make you work harder. So speak loudly. Pitch, right? When we get very excited, we get very shrill. Like, oh my God, right? But for you to have gravitas, you have to go to your guttural voice, right? Not tempo, not like increase your bass versus your treble, right? In terms of audio, right? So grounded more from your stomach. Speed, our default speed is we love speaking fast, right? We love because we are nervous, we just like speaking fast, we are mumbling, jumbling all over the place. How does it make you feel as a listener? It makes you work hard. If I speak slowly, you can understand what I'm saying, and you can also pay attention to every word I say, right? So speak slowly. Buffer, right? What is the default buffer we use when we are nervous? I don't know. Let me think. Okay, maybe, you get the point, right? These are the buffers we use when we are nervous, right? Right, whatever. There's some words we all substitute. Design your buffer to be just silence. You need 2 seconds to think. Silence is okay, right? it creates that gravitas versus, I don't know, let me think. So you as a listener can see what I'm trying to do. I'm just contrasting your defaults and the designs you need to create, right? The last one is inflection or tone. What is a default tone when we're speaking? Normally, quite monotonous. Hey, did you do the groceries? What's up? How's the weather? It's 33 degrees out here. AQI is 200. Very monotonous. It takes effort for a speaker to inflect, right? But you want your inflection and tone to represent the message. So especially towards the end of the sentence, we taper off. But as speaker, you need to stay consistent towards the end. And in fact, even upmark your accents towards the end of the sentences and words. So all of this is work for us as speakers, right? Projecting our voice, speaking from your stomach, speaking slowly, buffering with silence, inflection and a tone that represents coherent with our message. But that's exactly the job of a speaker, is to do the hard work. Your job is to do the hard work. Make sure your audience doesn't have to do the hard work, right? So that's number one tool of speaking, which is voice. The second is energy. Energy is contagious, right? So if I'm speaking full of energy, even though it's over video conferencing, and especially if you're in a room, you can actually physically feel my energy. But if I'm like, energy is awesome. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, speaking energy is good. Energy is contagious. Yeah. You see the difference in how I project my energy versus if you like lower your energy. So if I lower my energy, my audience will lower their energy. If I am excited about my energy, my audience is going to mimic it. So energy is contagious, so project energy, right? So a simple tip is jump a little before you have to speak to get your jitters out of the way so you can project and channel it correctly. Same thing, the tip for voice is warm your vocal cords before you speak. There are a lot of vocal exercises to warm your vocal cords before you go on in front of a big public. Expression, and especially micro expressions. In the days of VC, our faces are projected on large screens, right? Literally. So if I am frowning at you and I'm not paying attention and I'm making faces, it matters, right? It matters to you how I look and what my expression looks like. Simple expression. If you don't know anything, micro smile, right? It's called inner smiles. It's not not like this. It's a resting smile. Expressions matter, especially over video conferences. So, make sure you are aware of your expressions. And especially in VC is awesome because I can see my expressions. So sometimes I catch myself frowning and I can correct myself. Humans are biologically wired. We are extremely attuned to reading faces and expressions. Babies know what the mothers feel by looking at the expressions of the mother. So don't underestimate the impact you're having on the audience with your expression, right? Even as a listener, actually, if not speaker. So pay attention to that. Body language is another tool. Even over VC, it's important, but in an actual personal setting, it's even more important, right? Are you sitting, walking, standing up, crouching? How are you holding your head? Every posturing, stance, subtle movements, all of these matter because they communicate a message. So you want to be intentional about it. If you don't know anything and you don't know what to do, stand still, right? Instead of trying to create unnecessary movement, you can be still, hold your hands, in a resting way, and that's okay, like something like this, or again, based on the circumstance of, who's your audience and how they can see your body posture. Similarly, gestures, right? Don't flail your hand everywhere. It's too much distraction for the audience. So be intentional. Like I'm using my hands generally to count stuff, right? So that you can follow me along. Sometimes I use this space to say, here's a topic 1, here's a topic 2. So I'm using my gestures because I don't have an audio visual for you, visual behind. So be intentional about your gestures. They can be useful, but they can also take away. If it's a physical setting, touch matters, right? How you touch the person, but I think in COVID, it doesn't matter right now. Eye contact, very important. I can speak to the ceiling or the ground or to my belly button, right? it matters because how will you perceive and how will I hook you as audience if I'm not even looking at you? So sometimes the best way, you probably heard this before, start with one person who's paying attention to you, finish one thought, then move to the other person, finish one thought, move to the third person, finish another thought, and then you can round robin. You can't look at everybody in the room, but you can have areas of, eye contact. But don't look at the wall, like look at a person. It actually matters. Eye contact actually drives your energy, and it also brings out energy of the audience. So, use it wisely. It helps creating that relationship we talked about in the beginning. If you make an eye contact with the audience, especially in a one-on-one conversation, instant connection, right? So use it. I know when we get nervous, especially when I'm thinking, I look at my ceiling. I'm like, let me think about this. It's okay if you're doing it once in a while, because constant eye contact also is hard, by the way. But make sure you keep doing it in the middle to bridge that connection back. Because if you don't look at your audience is not going to look at you, right? Simple. The last is space. Again, in COVID, it doesn't matter because we are all virtually distanced, but in physical environment, it matters, right? So imagine you're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody in office, and you're sitting in a large room, you're on one end, the other person is on the other end, right? How does it feel? It doesn't feel very intimate connection. But if you're sitting in a small, cozy room on two different couches next to each other, it matters. So the space matters on how you craft the space of where the audience is sitting. So again, COVID, irrelevant, but non-COVID times, you can think about space and touch also. And the last thing I will say about this is cultural differences play a part here. In some cultures, sarcasm, for example, is considered witty. In other cultures, it's considered rude. In some cultures, high energy, in your face kind of delivery is considered confident. In other cultures, it might be considered arrogant, right? So you have to be sensitive to the cultural aspect of your audience. For example, in some cultures, a touch or a pat on the back means I care. But in other cultures, that touch might be a violation, right? So you really have to cater to the sensitivity of your audience, who you're talking to. So all of this, to recap quickly, we talked about principles of engagement and the tools of engagement, which are non-verbal, right? 66% of your communication is non-verbal, with your voice, your energy, your expression, your body language, your gestures, your touch, your eye contact, and your space. And doing all of this, being sensitive to the culture of the audience. And quickly, let's go over the last piece, which is tools to manage yourself. If you are nervous, like I said, you're going to make the audience nervous. So how do you make sure you can speak confidently and manage your own nervousness and emotions? Number one, prepare, rehearse. How much do you think I prepare for these talks? I have every word that I'm going to speak written. I'm not improvising this because it matters. If I get nervous in front of you, I'm going to blabber all over the place. So prepare. How much did you think Steve Jobs prepared before he gave Apple talks? He at least gave that talk 1,000 times, right? How much do you think performers and big artists prepare before they go on stage? It matters. What does preparation do? Preparation and rehearsal helps you structure the content, helps you memorize it, helps you get familiar with it. And to get familiar in a body fashion, to say, okay, when I'm going to say this, how does it actually feel in my body, right? So your body on a muscle and cellular level gets familiar with the content you're going to say. There's a myth out there where people say, it's not authentic. If I prepare too much, it comes as rehearsed and inauthentic. It's too rehearsed. I want to improvise. I want to be authentic. Bullshit. Improvisation and not non-preparation is not being authentic. It's just non-preparation. So if it matters to you, and if this thing is important to you, you have to prepare and rehearse. Otherwise, you're going to blabber and be nervous and make everybody around you nervous. So next one, how to manage yourself is, simple thing that you are worthy, right? You have to believe that you're worthy to be here and to take this X amount of time away from the audience because they're going to give this time to you, right? You have to remember on your worth as a speaker. You can visualize speaking, right? So I visualize sometimes I'm talking here in front of you, and this 1 hour is mine, and that you have dedicated to come and listen to me. This value I'm giving to you. I have to believe in the value I'm giving to you, and I visualize this in my mind. There may be folks who are not paying attention to you. You can ignore them. So focus on people who are paying attention to you, because you want to manage your nervousness in that like during the talk, right? Focus on a couple of people, right? Make eye contact, couple of people, and that should kind of get you into a good, comfortable space. Read the room and adjust. Maybe sometimes you are going off the topic, and maybe what you're saying is completely irrelevant and room is bored out of their mind. If you feel that energy from the room, adjust, right? Acknowledge to them that you care, right? So the principle is they need to know you care before they care to know what you know, right? So let's say you are talking during a lunch hour, and you are in between them and food. Acknowledge it, right? Say, hey, I know I'm the last person standing between you and the food, so let me get this out quickly. Show that you care, right? You have to show that you care for your audience. If there's a audio visual problem happening, apologize to your audience, right? Adjust. Like this is the adjustment that has to be done like on an ongoing basis. It's okay to feel jitters. People say, oh, I'm feeling butterflies, something is wrong. No, it's okay to feel jitters because it means that you care. If you don't care, you will have no nervousness. Actually, if you don't have any jitters, that is something of a problem actually, because it means you don't care. And if you don't care, don't talk. Right? So some jitters is actually good actually. You can use that nervous energy and channel it back to the audience. And same thing I mentioned before, energy and emotion are contagious. So you have to manage your energy and emotions. So if your energy goes down, audience's energy goes down. If you get nervous, audience gets nervous, right? So you have to manage your energy and emotion so you don't make audience, right? So you can leverage it in a good way where audience can mimic your energy and emotion versus the other way around. And the last one on how to manage yourself, get out of your own way. What I mean by this is you don't matter. Deepti Vyas doesn't matter. Who is she? Irrelevant. I, the speaker, am only here as a conduit to give you the message that needs to be delivered. I'm just a messenger. Who am I? What I care for? How much money I have? What is my life history? Irrelevant. Your ego will come in its way, right, when you get nervous. So it's important to let go of that idea of who you are in that moment. You and topic become one. You are the topic. You are the conduit to deliver that message. Otherwise, who you are, nobody cares, right? That's the one way to get out of your own head and your ego is, who you are, it doesn't matter, right? So to quickly, those are the tools to manage yourself. Like I said, prepare, right? Remember you're worthy. Adjust, read the room and adjust if you need. It's okay to feel jitters because it shows that you care, right? Manage your energy and emotion because your audience will mimic your energy and emotion. And get out of your own way. You're just the messenger. Otherwise, you don't matter. So those are all three things I wanted to talk about, and to recap quickly, we talked about why, like be clear on your why, right? Are you speaking to inform, educate, convince, entertain, whatever? Why are you speaking? Remember the principles of engagement: ease of understanding, building trust, getting curiosity, evoking emotions, getting their stakes. The tools of non-verbal communication: voice, eye contact, body language, etc. And the last one, how to manage yourself, right? How to manage your emotions and present confidently. And before we end and get into questions, the last thing I will tell you, which is the biggest secret of all, okay? Are you ready? The biggest secret of all is your audience wants you to succeed. Your audience wants you to succeed. They want you to speak well. They're cheering for you. Why? Because they've already committed their time to you. They already showed up to the meeting. They already purchased a ticket to the theater to come and see you, right? They are already invested in you. So if you do well, it means that their decision to invest in you was right, right? So you are in the same boat. Your success is their success. So it's a win-win situation. So just know that your audience is not waiting for you to fumble. Your audience is cheering, wholeheartedly waiting to listen to you and for you to do well and speak well. So that's the one last secret, I will say. And with this, I will stop and maybe we'll have a round of Q&A and see how